Everyone, welcome to tonight's study session for the city of Casa Grande. Tonight we're going to be talking about along with our partners Arizona Water, the Joint Demand Management Program. Okay.
I hear an echo.
Oh, it's me too.
Got it, Gloria?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as promised at our last study session, staff has been working very diligently along with our partners, Arizona Water Company, on the development of a water resources plan. And as I mentioned at that meeting, there are a variety of components that are part of that plan. Most importantly is the demand management program, conservation, and I'll let Terry Sue Rossi from Arizona Water explain a little more about the differences in the definitions of the two, and water acquisition strategy and the like. And so we have elected to come back before the mayor and council this evening to share some of the progress that has been made on the demand management program. And I don't want to steal any thunder of Fred Snyder and or Terry Sue, but ultimately, just to kind of lay a bit of context, I know that we've advised the mayor and council of this along the way. Casa Grande had established a committee that was comprised of city staff as well as Arizona Water Company that went to the Sonora Institute, and there's been just a lot of momentum that has come as a result of some of that conference that we participated in. And so I know that Fred Snyder would like to address the council to begin with, and then hand the baton over to Terry Sue as the PowerPoint presentation progresses. So Fred, you want to kick things off?
Thank you.
Oh, there you
So
go.
just want to say good evening, and thank you for allowing us to come in and make a presentation during the City Council study session. I think everybody knows me. I'm Fred Schneider. I'm president of Arizona Water Company, and I've been with Arizona Water for about 13 years. As you know, we've been working very closely with city staff in preparing a joint water resources plan and a demand management program and a water acquisition strategy. This work also laid the foundation for the city's 2030 General Plan update. Today, as Larry mentioned at the October 19th study session, when Paul Tice presented the city's 2030 General Plan, we're debuting the very first component of the water acquisition strategy, which is the demand management program. This has truly been a joint effort between the city and Arizona Water Company. As you will see, for the city and Arizona Water to provide a sustainable water supply for Casa Grande, we need to work very closely together. We need to leverage each other's assets and strengths. At Arizona Water, we see ourselves as the city's water department, and we hope as we strengthen this relationship, you see us as that as well. I want to thank Mayor McFarland. I want to thank Councilman Powell, who's not here this evening, Larry Raines, and Paul Tice, and the rest of the senior management team for their leadership in helping us collaborate and develop this relationship. It's really a unique partnership. Lastly, I want to introduce our Water Resources Manager, Terry Sue Rossi. Terry Sue Rossi, she's the one who's going to be presenting the demand management program. She's been in the water resources field since 1987 here in Arizona. She's worked with the Department of Water Resources. She's worked with at the cities of Peoria and Surprise. She has experience in the private water utilities. She's worked at Central Arizona Project, and in particular the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District and the Arizona Water Banking Authority before she joined Arizona Water Company. In the last year and a half, Terry Sue, along with city staff, have truly worked tirelessly to lay the foundation for sustainable water use in Casa Grande. I'm very proud of all the hard work that the entire team has done that allowed us to get to this point here we are tonight. And with that introduction, I'll turn over to Terry Sue so she can jump into the demand management program. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. And I have to say, having worked for two different cities, City of Peoria and the City of Surprise, that it's a pleasure for me to be back in the municipal environment and working for a city. Woo. It's about building community. It's about building quality of life. And I have always looked at my job as a water resource manager as being the function that creates quality of life in a community. I never want water to become a barrier to your dreams. My job is to make sure that that never happens. So the last time we were here, last time I was here, I gave a presentation on the water resource plan. And in that session, and I'm not sure if Councilmember Kortzen will remember this or not, but she made a very strong statement that there was not a conservation program in the water resource plan. And I really took that to heart. I went back and I thought, I know that this is a part of why we're thinking, why didn't it end up in the presentation? And I realized that the reason that it wasn't in the presentation is that my focus has a tendency to be on water supply and not on conservation. And one of the things that Larry wanted me to talk about is, why do we call this a demand management program instead of a conservation program? And I'm going to have to give credit actually to Mr. Powell, who's now sitting down, for why this is in fact the way it is. And I'm going to tell a little story about him as we get into this a little bit when we talk about the workshop that Larry was trying to steal our thunder on, the Growing Water Smart workshop. And I'll tell the story of how we came to be calling this a demand management program. But I wanted to thank you, Ms. Kortzen, for pointing out that day, the importance of that. And yes, I really appreciate that. It makes a big difference. And we're really excited about this program. So I'm going to just get into it. I've got 60 slides. I know Paul had 60 slides at the last study session, and he managed to get through it, so I'm confident that we will do that again tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about the background and the context, kind of the why are we talking about water demand management right now? Why is it now? Why is it important to us at this point of the game? We're going to talk about current conservation efforts, the city's efforts, and our efforts. We're going to talk about a comprehensive water demand assessment that we've recently completed. We're going to talk about then how we took all of these existing and potential conservation measures and we're integrating them into a single demand management program. And then we're going to talk a little bit about schedule, staffing, and budget, and next steps. Oh, and I was going to say, I'm perfectly fine taking questions if you want to take questions. If you want to do questions during it, it'd probably be better if we wait till the end, because I might answer the question as we go along. But if you really have a question that needs to be answered at that time, please feel free to interrupt me. It won't throw me off or anything like that. So let's talk a little bit about the background and context, the why are we talking about this today. So there are really sort of four business imperatives as I see it. One is the adoption of the general land use plan. One is the joint water resource plan that both Larry and Fred talked about. One is the Growing Water Smart workshop that Larry talked about, and that was really a pivotal point for us. That was a turning point for us. And then there's the general regulatory environment that we have to live with right now and the tightening down of that regulatory environment. So let's start with the general land use plan. Now, I understand that Paul was here on the 17th and ran through this, so I'm not going to be I'm just stealing a few of his slides, the ones that I thought were the most interesting and most fewer words. And I'll just go through this really quick just to remind you of the highlights of what Paul had to say. So, first of all, how much water are we using here in Casa Grande? So he showed you this slide, and he indicated that we've been using about the same amount of acre feet every year going back to 2010. You can see that from the graphic. The one thing that has changed over time is starting in 2015, we started to use more CAP water. So the green on the top is raw water that we deliver right now to Francisco Grande, to the sports complex, and to the SRP Desert Basin Generating Station. Mm-hmm. And then starting in 2015, we started to store that water underground, the remaining CAP entitlement, and we've gradually been using more and more of it. And the other thing that Paul, I think, mentioned last week was that we were using roughly the same amount of water, but we have in fact increased in population from roughly about 62,000 up to 69,000, or almost 70,000 people. And what that means is that the people on a per capita basis are using the water more efficiently, and he has a graphic about that I'll show you in just a minute. So then, based on the growth projections in the general land use plan, we calculated how much demand we think that the city will need by 2050. So today, the estimate is roughly around 15,000 acre feet, and by 2050, we expect to need about 31,000 acre feet. I'm going to come back to this chart in a minute and show you what the impact on water conservation would be given Paul's goals that he set up in the general land use plan. So how efficient are we? This gets at that GPCD rate. So since 2010, the gallons per capita per day rate in Casa Grande has been going down. So the top number that you see up there is the total water use. That's what we call a total GPCD. That includes all water that we produce divided by the number of people and then the number of days, and that gives you the gallons per capita per day. So today it's about 198. It was 225 in 2010. And then the two lines down below represent the residential water use. The lower one, which is the light green one, is just the residential GPCD without any HOA use. With HOA use, it's a little bit higher, about 96. We have a tendency to think of that as being included because the common areas are really a part of the residential water use. So in the general land use plan, you might recall that Paul set out 4 goals. One is to implement water conservation measures to reduce the outdoor use of water. One goal is to reduce the daily total water use per capita and the daily residential water use per capita by 15% from the 2020 levels. Another is to maximize the use of effluent as an alternative to groundwater in appropriate applications. And I think Kevin is here today, and he's involved in a lot of that activity. And then the last one is to develop additional water supplies to reduce the dependency on groundwater from the Pinal EMA. So Paul also showed you this graphic, and what this graphic represents is if we were to implement his conservation goals, meaning a 15% reduction in total GPCD and in residential GPCD, how much water would we need in 2050? And the answer to that is 26,000 acre feet. And so that's roughly a 4,500 acre foot reduction in the amount of water that we would need. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to come back to this very graphic and talk about what that might mean in terms of money. And you'll see that it makes a huge difference. So the general land use plan, one of the reasons why we wanted to do the demand management program now was we wanted to roll it out at the same time that you all were rolling out the general land use plan so that we could support the adoption of the plan. And it was like blending them together to give the conservation program more strength in starting and also helping with the general land use plan. So the second imperative is the joint water resource plan. And this is a project that Arizona Water Company had been working on before I started in May of 2019. But it was the first project that I was assigned to, and I came out and started working with the city. And the water resource plan, it's not a document per se. It's actually a number of different things. It begins with a GIS, which includes every piece of information we could find that is related to land use and water use, and it's brought into a single environment that we can analyze it. But that's all a virtual environment. And then we have 4 inventories. These are, in some cases, actual reports, and in other cases, it might be a GIS cover, or it's both. So for example, the existing water supplies is an actual report. Potential water supplies is an actual report. The infrastructure is really in a virtual environment. And then the financial mechanism is an actual report. We also have potential water supplies and existing water supplies. We have elements of those also embedded in the GIS as well. There's also supply and demand model associated with that. We didn't use that particular model for the demand projections that we used in the general land use plan because it's a very detailed model and we're still sorting it out at a parcel level. But we continue to work on that. And we've developed a water acquisition strategy, and that's an actual document. And I want to talk about that a little bit. So the water acquisition strategy was originally 8 elements, but now it's 9, and includes what you see there: development of a demand management program, quantification of groundwater rights, the utilization of reclaimed water, allocation of existing supplies, evaluation of shifting from an assured to an assured water supply designation for the city as a whole, application for a type of CAP water called NAA priority water, conversion of Gila River water, acquisition of a buffer water supply, and protection of existing supplies. And you'll notice that demand management made it to the top of that list. But what I will tell you is that this is not necessarily an order of importance. These are all things that are very important, and they all work in tandem. But today we're going to focus on the demand management program. So then there's the Growing Water Smart workshop. And this is sort of the third business imperative, if you will. And this was truly a turning point. I know for me personally, I think it was for the city, I think it was for our company. And this was a workshop, a 2.5-day workshop that was put on by the Sonoran Institute and the Babbitt Center for Land and Water Policy. So it was 2.5 days. It was hosted by, there was no charge to us to participate in it. And it was amazing. The facilities were amazing. The food was amazing. I've never had that good of vegan food in my life. It was amazing what they prepared with the vegan stuff. 7 cities participated in this workshop, and 3 of them were from Pinal County. We were there, Florence and Apache Junction. There was a lengthy application process, and the mayor really spearheaded that. And I have to say that we were sort of reluctant brides in putting that together because it was so involved. So he had to kind of crack the whip with us, but it ended up being in our best interest to do that. So we had a team, and the team included the city, Pinal County, and Arizona Water Company. These are the participants of the team. And so you'll see that several members of your staff, Councilmember Powell was there, Mayor McFarland obviously was the leader of it, Steve Miller, Fred, and then myself. And we had 2 wonderful facilitators, Ashley Hollinger with Water Resource Research Center and Faith Sternlieb with the Babbitt Center. And they were dedicated to us the whole time, and they were really wonderful at what they did. So what did we do while we were there? 2.5 days, you probably wonder. Well, there were presentations by experts, there were peer-to-peer exchanges, there were amazing social activities. Like I said, the food was unbelievable. And then there were focused participant work sessions. And in those sessions, we produced 2 work products. One is something we call the Water Smart Message, and the other is an action plan. In addition to that, there was an offer for some technical assistance, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too today. So this is our Water Smart Workshop message. And this was really, truly a turning point for us as a team, for us as organizations. This is, they took us through an entire process. They taught us how to do this. They had theory behind it. And one of the things that they explained to us is that this activity was about taking blame yourself for the problem and your contribution to the problem. And they were very keen on this because for us to move forward and take the kinds of actions we needed to not externalize the blame, because if we're blaming other people, then we only come up with answers that look like what these other people can do. And so they were very keen on making sure that we did exactly what we were supposed to. And so this is the product of that. And I think it took us 2 different working sessions to come up with it. Everything before the word but is just sort of defining the problem. The but is the blame part, and the therefore is the what we need to do. And I'm just going to read it, and I like to read it whenever we meet because it's really important to just cement this in our minds. Our community, farms, businesses need water to thrive, and we risk becoming too dependent on groundwater. But we maintained our agricultural economy on Colorado River water, CAP water, and we grew our communities on groundwater, both of which are expected to decline. Therefore, in order to protect our quality of life, help meet future water needs, and grow our economy, we need to reduce reliance on groundwater, invest in sustainable water supplies, and use the water we have more efficiently. And we've really taken this to heart. I think Paul used this in the general land use plan. I use it for a number of different things. This has become really the beacon for us. Yes?
Exactly is a sustainable water supply?
In water resource management, what we consider to be a sustainable water supply is a water that you can use over and over and over again, that it doesn't deplete. Like a groundwater supply, think of it like your IRA. There's an end to it. So you have a certain amount of money in your bank account, and once you've burned through that, it's gone. That's what groundwater is. A renewable supply would be like your pension or your Social Security check, so it's going to go on indefinitely.
Okay.
So then we did this detailed action plan, and in the detailed action plan, we came up with 4 different goals: supply and demand management, solidify groundwater supply, reclaimed water utilization, and additional water supply acquisition. And this is where I'm going to just pause and tell this story about Councilmember Powell, because we all were working on this, the conservation part of the action plan. And at the end of the day, he said, you know, this really isn't just about water conservation. This is about supply and demand management. And we were all kind of tired and a little grumpy and wanted to go to the social event, and we kind of said, we don't think so. And we all went home, and we thought about it. And the next day we came back, and we realized that he was right. This really was a supply and demand management program. It's not about just conserving water. That's not the final goal. You have to manage the demand, you have to manage the supply, and it's these two things coming together that creates the magic. And we changed this from, I think we had just conservation program or something like that, and we changed it to supply and demand management. So I cannot take credit for the demand management moniker. That was the result of Dick's thinking and prodding us along, so we can thank him for that. So today what we're going to talk about is that particular element exploded out into the actual conservation program that we're going to be hopefully embarking upon here shortly. And at the time, we were talking about the idea that it could be expanded to other communities in Pinal County, but we soon realized that we needed to put our own oxygen mask on first before we could really do anything like that. So we pulled back on that concept, and since then we've really been moving full speed ahead on our own specific program. And then we were offered technical assistance monies. And this again was we can thank the mayor for this because he was really the reason that we got this money and the reason we went to this workshop to begin with. But they told us that we could each get a grant for up to $10,000 to help us kickstart us in our work. And so we put together an application and sent it down there and to the Sonoran Institute, and they approved a $10,000 grant for us to do a public messaging program. And I have Brian Kramer with us here today because he is actually now under contract with the Lincoln Institute for the $10,000, and he's going to begin doing all the branding. I'm going to give you a little taste of that today, and if you ask me any questions, I'm going to have Brian stand up because that is way out of my bailiwick. But we're very happy that he's on board, and we're thrilled, and I'm going to show you in a minute why I'm so thrilled about having him. And then the last thing I was going to just mention is that the money itself is coming from an organization called the Arizona Community Foundation. So it's a kind of a complicated structure, but I wanted to make sure you knew exactly where the money was coming from. And the last business imperative is
And I will say the MOU was finished today.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's been very involved.
Yes.
But we're just happy that it's there, and we're happy to work with them. They're great people. We enjoy working with them. So the last business imperative is what I would call the regulatory environment. And so what we're going to talk about is really the two different utilities. So we have our water company, Arizona Water Company is the largest utility in the city of Casa Grande, and then you have your own water system. And so you guys refer to it as Copper Mountain Ranch. Is that how everybody refers to it, as Copper Mountain Ranch? I think it varies. Typically, Copper Mountain Ranch. So your system in 2019 had about 348 connections and delivered about 180 acre-feet of water to it. Under the state's regulatory system, that system is regulated as something called a small water provider.
And I see that first one is for sale if Arizona Water is interested.
Yeah, I saw there was a for sale sign up on it. So it's regulated under the small municipal provider program, and basically under that program, you just need to use water efficiently and keep your system losses at less than 15%. It's a municipal utility. As you know, you set the rates for that. It's your water utility. So you're not regulated by the Corporation Commission. We, on the other hand, have about 24,000 connections, and we delivered about 12,000 acre-feet of potable water to Casa Grande and about 2,100 acre-feet of raw CAP water to the entities that I discussed earlier. We are regulated under something called the Large Municipal Provider Program, and specifically under something called a non-per capita conservation program, and our system losses are limited to 10%. We are also regulated by the Corporation Commission. For today's conversation, there's all these programs that you see there are programs that are under the Department of Water Resources, and Arizona Water Company is regulated by almost every single one of those, actually not almost all of those programs. But today, all we're really going to focus on is the non-per capita program, because that's kind of the more, it's the bigger program, it's the heavier program, and so anything that we would do would cover the small provider program requirements too. So what we're saying is that this is a program that can cover both these utilities. It doesn't need to just cover one utility and then have a separate program for Copper Mountain Ranch. We are also regulated under the Corporation Commission, and as far as the BMPs are concerned, and really what they've done is they've just more like enforced what the Department of Water Resources is expecting us to do. So major requirements under the non-per-capita program, we have to do a basic information program, which is very, very basic, but it's basically some conservation brochures, making contact a couple of times with customers, and then we have to implement a variety of best management practices. And the Department of Water Resources has probably 50 or 60 best management practices that they want us to pick from, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to work some of that out. We also have to comply with something they call individual user requirements, which are applicable to things like golf courses and large cooling facilities. And again, we have to keep our losses at 10%, and we have to report water use. So those are the major requirements. Now I'm going to just talk about the various conservation efforts on the part of the city and on the part of the water utility. So as you know, the city has the general land use plan, and we've talked about that a little bit. I didn't mention the piece about the future land use decisions being tied to available water resources, but you might recall in the presentation that Paul did, he talked about where all the certificates of assured water supply are, and he talked about them being in the phase one growth area. And so there was that piece, and then he also talked about being consistent with the Department of Water Resources' fourth management plan. That's where all the conservation requirements are laid out, and increasing water conservation efforts for all water use types, and then the 4 goals that we talked about before. But you already have several BMPs already embedded within your code and ordinances. For example, you've got historic downtown design guidelines encouraging xeriscaping. You have requirements that say water features must use recycled water. You require landscaping that requires low water use plants. You have a maximum of 40% landscaped area that can be turfed, that can be irrigated turf. You require that irrigation systems be efficient, and you prohibit you prohibit water flooding in the street, essentially. And then you also have a conservation-oriented rate structure associated with Copper Mountain. Now, this particular rate structure is not what you'd consider to be a traditional conservation-oriented rate structure. It's a flat rate, but it's a very high flat rate, and it starts at the first gallon of water that you use. It's like, I think it's like $4 for every 1,000 gallons. So even though it's not an inverted block rate, it's a very encouraging, a water-efficient, encouraging rate structure. So some of the things that Arizona Water Company is doing, we also have a conservation-oriented rate structure. It's more of the traditional block rate structure. It protects the lifeline uses, and then it discourages the luxury uses, if you will. We have a program that provides for going out to special events, like a water conservation booth, that kind of thing. We can do community presentations. We have new homeowner landscape information that we make available. We can do residential water audits for our customers in the event that they have high water use and would like to benefit from that. We have a customer high water use inquiry, resolution, and notification process. We do water waste investigations, and we also do distribution system leak detection, meter repair, and replacement program. So in addition to sort of figuring out all the things that we're doing right now, we hired West Water Research to conduct a comprehensive water demand assessment. And they presented that to us on, I think, October 8th, just recently. And they did a wonderful job. They have a new person there. Her name is Claire Madden. She looks like she's 20, but she was just amazing. And I just was so impressed with the work that she did. And she's doing a great job. And so I'm gonna, that whole presentation is an hour-long presentation of itself. So I'm just gonna do the highlights of this. And so what she did was she basically took and analyzed all the customers in Casa Grande, and she figured out the customers in each of the different connection types, so commercial, industrial, single family. And then they researched benchmarks. How much water should those types of customers be using? And then they figured out how many of those connections were exceeding those benchmarks, and then they summed the amount of water that is associated with those accounts, and that's where you get the 2,700 acre-feet of water that's above a benchmark. So for those of you who don't know what an acre-foot of water is, I should probably explain that. That's about enough water for probably 3 to 4 homes in a year in Casa Grande. So an acre-foot is a lot of water. And then the right-hand column is the far column to the right is the average per connection water use. And they added that column after we had the presentation the other day because, or maybe it was actually with the Sonoran Institute, so that we could show that on a connection basis, how much water were people using. So we kind of wanted to see, so for example, if you look at, let's see, I think the next slide actually does this. If you look at these three, on a per connection basis, we've got roughly 50 connections between those three categories, commercial, industrial, and commercial irrigate. And they're using considerable amounts of water, like about 350 acre feet. But if you go to single family, they're using about 0.28 acre feet over their targets, and there's about 2,000 people. So if we want to focus our efforts, we're more likely going to want to spend time with these 50 customers to reduce the water use by potentially up to 1,500 acre feet and the total volume water use above the benchmark. Whereas here we'd have to work with 2,000 people, 2,000 accounts for 556 acre feet. So we're trying to figure out how to use our money and our resources most efficiently. So when we got done when they got done with the analysis, this is kind of what they concluded, that the largest opportunities for conservation are the industrial and commercial customers, and specifically the outdoor irrigation customers. The industrial water users are kind of tricky. So this would be like an Abbott or a Frito-Lay, for example. And we know that a lot of their water use is used for the process itself. So in order to work with them, we'd have to raise the bar quite a bit. And I think what we would find is that there probably isn't a lot of potential for water savings because they're probably already using the water efficiently just by the nature of their business. That doesn't mean that we would exclude them from the process, but we don't think that's where we're going to see the most water savings. The other thing is that all of their water use is, for the most part, going to the wastewater treatment plant, and we don't want to alter the operations of the water treatment plant too much. And all the water that goes to the water treatment plant becomes a new water supply for us, which is effluent. So there are some upsides and downsides of working on conservation with users like Abbott and Frito-Lay. So we're going to try to focus on the outdoor irrigators. And we think that this is why Paul concluded that. I don't know, he didn't need an analysis. Somehow he managed to figure this out in his brain because he knows everything so well. And so he inherently understood that's where we needed to focus. And we in our data demonstrated that was true, and that we found most of the outdoor irrigation is the largest component of our commercial customer water use. And there's also a lot of options for targeting this type of water use, and in particular with the best management practices that the Department of Water Resources would like us to use. And then, so we came to the conclusion that this was really our target area. So then Westwater took and put together a bunch of different potential targets for us, and you can see the list here, and we're just going to highlight some things for you. So for the schools, so for Casa Grande High School, there are 3 locations, the city of Casa Grande 50, the Casa Grande Elementary and Middle School 14, and then the HOAs, we've got 10 locations associated with a company called Associated Asset Management, and 6 locations with University Shadows. So again, what we're looking for is how do we get the most bang for our buck? And so with the Casa, I'm going to show you 3 examples actually. So this is the Casa Grande High School one. So there actually looks to me to be more than the number of counts that they indicated. Oh no, that was just locations. So they look like about 7 accounts. And you can see Casa Grande High School, Casa Grande Union High School on the left, and the Vista Verde Union High School on the right. Casa Grande Union High School uses about 103 acre feet, does not have a commercial irrigate account with us. Vista Grande Union High School does have a commercial irrigate, and it uses about 142 acre feet. And you can kind of see from the 2 why Vista Verde is using more. But what's most interesting to me about this is that Casa Grande doesn't have a commercial irrigate account. And when you look at how much indoor water use Vista Grande has, you can probably expect that it's going to be about that with the Casa Grande Union High School. So you can see there's a lot of commercial irrigate, even though they don't actually have such an account. So we think that they're a good potential target. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the associated asset management properties. And so I think we found 10 of those, and I'm just going to feature these, the top 3. And so at Mission Royale, there was about 68 acre feet across 31 accounts, 39 acre feet for Tamarin, and 32 acre feet for Ironwood Villages. So we would work with these HOAs in order to go in and help them reduce their water use by, what's the magic number? 15%. And then there's the city of Casa Grande. And I figure if no one else will agree to participate in the program, we have one captive customer. We actually think people will want to participate. And so Westwater put this slide together, and they wanted me to ask you a question, actually. There's one account that we have called 2200 North Thornton Park, and I will tell, North Thornton Road, and that's the one that's using the most in terms of commercial irrigate. And I believe that that is actually the Dave White Golf Course, and that you must be serving water to the Dave White Golf Course in addition to the effluent that's provided.
And there's a part, yeah.
Oh, there's a park
And a
there.
lake.
Okay, so
And
the
a
effluent is going on the golf course, and then we're putting it on the park. And this is where the GIS says the meter is, but you can see the park is down in the southwest there, and actually just directly south of it. There's also the Carmack Nat Park that we're just featuring here today, and that one is the second largest. And then the O'Neill Park, and you can just kind of see the differences in these and see that there's some potential there for some water savings. And we would be working with the city in order to make that happen. And, okay, yeah. So that's what they did in their water demand assessment. And so we came up with this concept of targets, and they came up with a program called the Water Wise Outside Program. And so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna integrate these together. So our existing conservation programs, our new conservation programs, and bring them all together. And you get to now see my absolute favorite part of this whole program is that stamp. I just love this stamp. And I can't even remember now when it was, but the first time I saw the stamp was at the State of the City address. And we went out there, and the mayor and other folks had these really cool T-shirts on with this "Love It Casa Grande" thing, and they were throwing T-shirts at us out into the audience. And I think I pushed a poor woman aside to grab one of these T-shirts so I could have my own T-shirt, because I thought this is the coolest idea. And so when I saw it, I was just sitting there thinking, I gotta talk to the mayor, man. We need to use this for the conservation program. And so we talked, and I think he must be like a marketing genius or something, because but before our conversation was over, he'd already planned out like the branding and everything, and he's like knew exactly what we needed to do. And thank goodness, because I don't know the first thing about that kind of thing, so I really needed that help. But what I can tell you is that logo really turned me on, that concept of that logo. And so I contacted Renee over at the Chamber of Commerce at the mayor's direction and talked about it, and she put me in touch with this young man right here, Brian Kramer. And he has become my latest best friend, and he created that for us. And we took it over and showed it to the city management, and I think we all really liked it a lot and thought that it was a great element for the conservation program. And so I want to talk about this a little bit, because this is a really important part of the entire program. It's really, it's the glue that's going to hold the whole thing together. But first, let me tell you what's in the program. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we've got the ordinances that you already have, the general land use plan, the customer high water use inquiry resolution and notification, which we do, the conservation-oriented rate structures that both of us do, the leak detection and repair and metering replacement program that we all do. And then we have two new elements we want to add in, the Save at Casa Grande and then the Water Wise Outside. Now, bear in mind that this is just the beginning. So we can't roll out every measure we're going to do. It's a little bit like a website. You have to refresh things. So we're starting off with the Save at Casa Grande, that's going to go on indefinitely. And the Waterwise will probably go on indefinitely as well, but we'll add more elements as time goes on. And when we find that some of these elements aren't necessarily working, we are not going to be afraid to stop those elements and start to do something different, because we're all about this actually working. So the Save It Casa Grande campaign. So it's a conservation campaign, and again, we're kind of out of my bailiwick here, so if you've got questions on this, I'm going to ask Brian to come up and answer them. But we feel that the branding is how we're going to establish how critical it is to use water wisely in Casa Grande. We're going to have monthly conservation tips, and we're going to advertise these monthly tips and the available programs through special events, and we're going to advertise those through the social media, and we're going to have messages delivered through these image ads and these videos. I don't even know what an image ad is. Don't tell Brian that I don't know what an image ad is. So,
Terry Sue, large portions of our community are very concerned about water, and when we get some kind of industry or anything, including everybody that sits up here, the first question is where are you going to get the water from? And so these kind of things are good, and I think you've already got a base started pretty good in the community right now.
Yes, yes, I agree. And one of the things that we want to do with the interactive, with the social media campaign is actually make it interactive. So it isn't going to be just us messaging out. We're going to create opportunities for our customers to message us back in. I joke about how we're going to, whoever can send us the best conservation tip gets to go to lunch with the mayor, stuff like that. So we can do a lot of really cool things and have a lot of interaction with the social media. We're also going to be surveying the attitudes about using water wisely, also using the social media. So we're going to establish a base of where are people at right now, and then we're going to test that as time goes on to see that our methods are actually working. We'll have a landing page on the Greater Casa Grande Chamber of Commerce website. That will be connected to the city's website, it'll be connected to our website, and we're going to be using several different platforms: Facebook, Instagram, programmatic display, whatever that is, and YouTube. So this will all come together. It's like a big wrapper. It's like a vessel for the entire water conservation program, the whole demand management program, and everything. Any products that we distribute at these events will have the logo on it. All the messages that we put out will have the logo, and then in addition to the logo, what we also want to do is come up with a slogan and then a hashtag. And the slogan is, in this case, this is just an example, but together we can protect Casa Grande's future. But we need to come up with a slogan where we are instilling the value of using our water resources in a wise manner. And so we'll do that, and we'll put together something that looks like this hashtag. I don't know if we can use that one exactly. And then these are examples of how these things appear. And honestly, I couldn't tell you. Are these in Facebook, or what are these?
Sure. Hi, everybody. This is a picture of a drone photo we took at sunset of a neighborhood in Casa Grande looking west. It's got the one of the water towers, which is kind of iconic image in Casa Grande, Abbott, and a pretty sunset. And so the message is only use the water you need. Together we can protect Casa Grande's future. Hashtag #SaveItCG, which will be kind of the hashtag and the branding for the campaign. And so this is an example of an ad that we would run, to kind of build the brand and establish the message and why it's important to people in the community. And then that would be accompanied by monthly conservation tips and engagement, maybe a contest to share how you're conserving water and, get the community involved that way.
So those show up in Facebook or
Yep,
Instagram?
So the picture on the right is an example of what a Facebook ad would look like.
Facebook.
So that's a single image ad. Another component of the campaign is we're going to be producing a couple videos that explain water conservation and why it's important to people in Casa Grande. So those could be used in the ads as well.
I like it.
I do too.
Yeah, isn't it cool?
We won't get accused of using a file photo.
No, absolutely not, thank you.
It's actually a picture of the city of Casa Grande.
Didn't I see Tabletop Mountain in the background?
And Brian,
did.
It is a beautiful
before we go on,
picture.
are you going to do any type of Spanish language, YouTube video, print material? And of course, Facebook and YouTube or whatever, but is that a piece that you're going to try to?
I think that's a great idea. We haven't gotten to that level of detail yet, but the great thing about YouTube or some of these social media platforms is we could produce messaging and then serve it to those consumers in their native language. So we could do a Spanish component.
Right, okay.
And Brian was telling me that we can target these messages too, so you don't send the same message out to everybody.
Yep.
And there's a very, very involved back room somewhere where all that happens. But I'm just really excited about it. Now I'll talk a little bit about the WISE water use program, or Water Wise Outside. So this is what we were talking about earlier, where I gave you the examples of the outdoor irrigation customers. And so what we would do is we would target these particular customers, and we already kind of have figured out who they are. And the next step would be to develop water use profiles for each of these targets. And then once we've got a water use profile, and what that is just tells them everything we know about them from a water use perspective. and what their opportunities are in terms of potential water savings. And then we would go out and meet with them, and hopefully then they would agree to participate in the program. And then we would do more research to figure out exactly what the right measures were after we had a chance to talk with them in more detail. Then we would implement the program, and we would track the program outcomes and effectiveness. And so that's how that program would roll out. Some examples might be that if we were working with with a city, there have been studies that estimate 25 to 45 gallons of water saving per year for every acre foot of turf that's removed. So a 1 mile walking path, for example, is 4 foot wide, could save 1.6 to 3 acre feet of water per year. And then there's also opportunities at parks for potential use of reclaimed water if that's appropriate. As far as the schools are concerned, replacing 1 football field with artificial turf could save 3.3 to 6 acre feet of water per year. And then we could collaborate on a demonstration xeriscape garden in public spaces and provide information panels to educate them in those xeriscape gardens, and then again, some potential use of reclaimed water as well. So now I'm going to shift over to schedule, staffing, and a budget. So I'm going to begin with schedule and staffing. So I've got it broken down by sort of new elements and the ongoing stuff. So the stuff in the middle is stuff that we're already doing, it's been happening, and it's going to continue to happen as we go forward. Right now, up at the top, we're in program development. We're going to launch the program our intention is to launch the program in March of this year, and then the Save It program would start with the launch, and it'll be there to support the general land use plan as well as the launch of the conservation program. And then we begin the WaterWise Outside customer outreach in the fourth quarter of 2021. So by the end of the year, by the end of 2021, we should be going full bore. We're going to, hopefully we're trying to hire a water conservation specialist between now and the end of the year. And that person will then help us with the final stage of the implementation and the launching of the program. And then at the end, sort of middle of 2022, we're expecting to hire a water conservation coordinator and then have a water conservation specialist dedicated to Pinal Valley, dedicated to the Casa Grande area. So that's kind of the big picture plan. In terms of a budget, we've got a budget of about $150,000 between now and the end of 2022. We have $10,000 that we got from the Sonoran Institute that we described earlier. Actually, I think that came from that Arizona Community Foundation ultimately. And then the City of Casa Grande, I think, has agreed to contribute $25,000, and that's actually specifically for the social media campaign, and that's really tied with that grant. And then Arizona Water Company will pick up the remaining 115,000 acre feet, or $115,000. I always get my dollars
It's all
and
right,
my
Fred.
acre feet confused. Yeah, Councilman Powell's like, we'll take it. And then as far as a long-term budget is concerned, we expect to stabilize the staff and the budget probably in around the 2025 timeframe at roughly $330,000. And that would include a full-time water conservation specialist, part of a conservation coordinator, and then the costs of actually implementing the program. So let's go back now to that graphic that Paul had shown you. And this is the one where he shows, you know, what the population is going to be, what the water use is going to be. And if we did water conservation, this is what it would look like. If we're successful in meeting the 15% goal that he talked about, we would save about 4,500 acre feet of water. And so it was 30,442, and with the conservation, it's about 26,000 acre feet. And what that means is that we would, if we had to replace that water supply in today's dollars, just to replace it for 1 year, it would cost us $1.5 million just to replace that supply for 1 year. And so we think that this conservation program is not only the right thing to do, but it is also the most financially responsible thing we could possibly do. So thank you, Ms. Carson. So next steps, we're going to hire a water conservation specialist. We're going to implement the Save It campaign. We're going to time it with the general land use plan. And we're going to prepare those water profiles for our potential WaterWise outside targets. And we're going to come to the city and ask them to be our first participant. And then when Larry tells us to, we're going to come back to you and we're going to present the entire water resource plan so you can see the other components that we talked about earlier. So with that, I am ready to answer questions. And I got through all 60 of those slides. And
I just want to say
minutes.
thank you, Terry Sue, thank you,
Absolutely.
Fred, and the Arizona Water Company. You guys have been a great partner, especially the last couple of years we've been working on this. So it's been a long haul. It's great to see it kind of coming together. So thank you guys for everything you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
You know, some of the, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's things that relate to each other very much. So trees are really the strongest thing right now that the big cities can find to try to erase the temperatures that are rising. And like Phoenix has got a plan to plant all these trees, and they assume that they will reduce the temperature by 8 degrees across the city, and then on unpaved property by 28 degrees from the shade from the trees with canopies. And I guess the thing that I'm getting at is they need to work together. Is if you get a high water using tree, that's not a good thing either. But there's, I know some of these, what you need is one with a big canopy that'll put a lot of shade out over an area. But we have a lot of desert type trees that will do that. And if we can get more people using those, it would certainly be helpful. One other thing I know, when we were doing the fields out at Francisco Grande, the artificial turf has to be watered. Is that, I mean, that's correct, I think, isn't it?
No,
Yeah.
but it's also, a
I
lot
know
of
they'd
water
said
is
there was
used to
a-
cool it down. It gets very, very hot. So a lot of water
Don't
is
get on it
used.
in the summer.
I know.
No, I'm just going,
How do they play?
segueing in
How do
here.
the
Yeah.
Players playing that.
I'm with you on that one.
It's covered.
Oh.
Matt?
Thanks for using the logo program. or
Yeah.
Stamp, that's great.
I like it.
Great, our branding across. The one question I had is pretty simple, but the water conservation specialist, that person work for Arizona Water Company, the city, or
Arizona Water.
how's it gonna work?
I think the first one that we're going to hire is going to work for Arizona Water.
Okay.
So, and we're going to hire that person to support the company as a whole, and then we'll eventually have somebody dedicated specifically to Casa Grande.
Anybody else have any questions for Terry Sue?
Just a comment.
Well, go ahead.
No, I'm kind
ahead.
of with you as far as, I mean, it is exciting, and I can see how excited you are that this is something that, you know, I think since I've been on council, we've really never put together a plan like this to really push something like this. And so, I think people are going to be interested. I mean, I think we all know we live in the desert. We all know we need to conserve water. So I'm excited about the marketing campaign, the outreach. So I really like it. And I do like that stamp. I think that stamp
Isn't
is
that
really
cool?
cool. So,
Yeah, I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm with the cool kids.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
It's kind of as a perfect storm. Not all parts of the storm were good, but you know, it really started with the Arizona Department of Water cutting off our certificates of assured water. That really was the impetus, really, to get all these groups together and start planning and actually come up with a plan. So this is kind of the culmination of all that effort. Really, it's been going on for the last four or 5 years. So it's really good to see, and I really want to thank you guys for helping us get there. So without you, we wouldn't be there. So
Well,
thank
and
you.
the same
I
is
make a
true. We
comment?
wouldn't be there without you.
good.
Go ahead, Mary.
So one thing that I would really like to see stressed a lot, I mean, this is just really, really great, but, you know, there's always, you know, there's people that go, oh, conservation, you know, ecology, all of this, tree huggers and that. What I really, really liked, and I don't know, Brian, if this was yours, but it said, together we can protect Casa Grande's future. I think that's an awesome phrase. It brings in everybody. It brings in all the people that have always wanted to conserve water and energy and other things, but it also brings in the whole community of saying, it's our future and it's in our hands. And if we don't all work together, we're going to lose. And so I really, really like that phrase, and I'd like to see it really emphasized in the message so that it attracts everybody to the issue and a buy-in as far as that's concerned.
Hey, Terry Sue, one piece that I didn't see in there, and I know we had talked about, was was the potential for incentives. Is
Tell me
that-
more.
Well, remember when we were at the Snoring Institute, they gave a couple presentations on what Colorado had done to incentivize people, let's say, to remove grass from their parkway.
Oh, like a rebate program.
Correct. An incentive, some sort of an incentive program. I didn't see it in there. I don't know if it's not part of the
Las
plan.
Vegas too, I think.
But it might be something we want to look at.
Yeah, I think that, so this was like what I would call first generation.
Okay.
So we didn't want to.
Well, don't forget about it.
Yes, and it's like a website. We need to keep things. We need to keep bringing new elements, take out kind of the stuff that's not working, bring in new stuff, and so and honestly, it was. It's taken a Herculean efforts, as you know, to get to where we are right now. So we had to kind of decide what we were going to do at this juncture. But stay tuned, because there will be more.
Okay, thank you.
And then the other thing I just want to mention is that I don't think that there has ever been a partnership like this, where you have a city and a private utility basically integrating two conservation programs together and taking the assets and strengths of each in order to put together the best program. And so I just think that that's very unique. I think the Department of Water Resources is going to be very receptive to it. And I think we might also be able to package it and perhaps even get some environmental excellence awards for it from the Arizona Forward.
Yeah, and we'll keep our eyes open for grant money too, so
Yes.
additional grant money.
Well, you're the king of grants.
You know, I did have one question. You talked about a buffer water supply. What's a buffer water supply?
So that's a great question. What we see as a buffer water supply is when Paul came and talked to you about the Assured Water Supply certificates, he basically told you guys that that's where all the future growth has to go, because that land is entitled. It's got its 100-year assured water supply.
Okay.
And so we can move forward. If it's in a preliminary plat, it can be final plat. If it's final plat, it can move forward and sell lots, sell homes, and you're good to go. If there isn't a certificate of assured water supply, then there isn't an entitlement for that land as far as water is concerned. So the buffer water supply is about getting a small increment of water that will help those developments move forward.
Okay,
So that's what the
Okay.
buffer water supply is about.
thank you.
Donna?
You know, I just want to finish up. First of all, Fred, thank you, and Terry, I know I can tell you're excited about it. And I think that, you know, one of the things for Casa Grande is that we haven't had anything like this, and you talked about the incentives and talked about having, you know, that social media aspect. And I think that we all know that one of the reasons our recycling program was really good when we had it was because our kids went home and talked to the parents about it.
Good point.
And so I think that as we move forward, when we look at how we can collaborate with the schools to get the word out as well, because I think that, you know, that's where we're gonna have a lot of participation in, Brian mentioned the contests and those type of things. The kids will come home and if they don't shame their parents, they will educate them.
I think that's absolutely true.
Right, thank you.
Okay, anybody
This
else?
is a bad year to be in a pandemic when we're working with children, isn't it? I just wanted to say I appreciate the realization that we need to explore acquiring new sources of water. And the lady that we went to have the dinner with that evening, what was her name? I don't know why I don't remember.
Katie Lincoln.
I'm sorry?
Katie Lincoln.
She was part of
Yes.
the Lincoln Institute.
She was very charming, and I remember her concluding remarks saying that we need to go outside of Arizona, or we can't just stay in a small area, that we need to look at venturing out and doing things with water. I thought were really good.
Yes.
And the third I was gonna say is I can see anybody here can see why she's hired by Arizona Water. She's like a book.
She has quite a
You know,
resume.
she can open it up to page whatever and give you how it is. So we really appreciated you leading those discussions, and it was, I think, very rewarding for everybody that attended, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Matt,
I
you
did,
have-
I thought it was very
Matt, did you have a
rewarding.
comment?
No, I'm good
Nope,
now.
okay. All right, seeing none, no other comments then, Terry, Sue, Fred, thank you, guys. Thank you to
you very
Arizona Water
much.
for everything and
Thank
your
you.
presentation, and staff also. I know staff has put some time into this as well, so thank you guys for tonight. We're going to stand adjourned until 7 o'clock, 15 minutes.
Can we sit or?
in a while.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's city council meeting for the city of Casa Grande. Our first order of business is, number one, to call the meeting to order, and then second, we have our invocation with Pastor Elgin tonight. Thank you, Pastor, for being here, and then please remain standing, and Lisa will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I think we can all agree on this evening and for tomorrow, the nation could use our prayers. And I think that it's incumbent to us to recognize that God loves each one of us more than the sum of our political beliefs. Pray with me, please. Father God, I ask for peace for our nation on Tuesday and the days following. I ask for your peace to be upon all of our hearts as you will direct our voting and our words, our deeds, and actions. All authority comes from you, the Apostle Paul tells us, so help us to turn to you for your will to be done. Be upon all poll workers and election officials, all candidates, and all of those voting, all who have already voted. Impress us with the responsibility that we have living in a powerful and free nation. Let us cherish those freedoms tempered with righteousness and self-control. Now bless this council meeting and its work, and may all of it be done to your glory. In the name of Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Lisa. Let the roll call show that all council members are present. The next item is claims against, or actually, it's the minutes from the city council regular meeting, C1. Mr. Powell? you wanna-
Okay, I finally found it here.
We're all waiting for him.
Okay.
We're creatures of habit.
Mayor McFarland. I'm late to the game, but I would like to move that we approve the city council regular meeting minutes from October 19th as they're presented, and that's it for tonight.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Claims against the city, D1.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the claims of October 14th through October 27. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, claims are approved. Meeting agenda approval. Does staff have any changes? Larry? We have none, Mr. Mayor. Anybody on the council? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So move.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the meeting agenda is approved as presented. Next are our consent agenda items. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion, one roll call vote of the council. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Does anybody have anything you want to remove from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, then I will,
Mayor McFarland, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item on our agenda is item I, award of contracts. First item on the agenda is consider ordinance number 3240. Chief, it's you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I appreciate allowing me to be here tonight to talk to you about our purchase. We're requesting to purchase 70 new self-contained breathing apparatus cylinders for the fire department, such as the one you see right here in Scott Piper's hands and the one you see on his back. Flip around. There you go. This cylinder or bottle fits into that harness back there. The one that he has on is what's considered a 45-minute bottle. It really only lasts 30 minutes, depending on your body size. Smaller people, it'll last 45 minutes, but
Or
most
how
people
excited
last.
you get.
Say again?
Or how excited you get.
Yeah, I mean, if you're exerting yourself, I mean, they call them 45-minute bottles. I don't know anybody who makes them last 45 minutes. This is a 60-minute bottle. We use these for hazardous material calls, stuff where you're not in there working super hard, but you may be in there doing something technical, trying to shut up a valve or something like that on a hazardous material call. And this is firefighter Leos right there. You'll recognize the name. This is the good Leos. And this is Scott Pieper. You guys know Mindy, his wife that works at the Parks Department. And also, Scott took the engineer's exam this week, and he came out #1 on the list. So
All right, congratulations.
So he'll be an engineer. He'll be an engineer this Saturday.
Excellent.
These cylinders or bottles go back in our air packs. We call them air packs, or they're also called SCBAs, which is self-contained breathing apparatus. And you'll also see Firefighter Lace has a combination of all the gear that you have to have on before you make entry to an IDLH environment. IDLH environment is immediate death and life hazard. That's a classification that's given by NIOSH, the safety people, on a national level. And they basically establish levels of, or thresholds that you can withstand to breathe. And they do it for individual chemicals. They also do it for carbon monoxide and other things. But that right there is the whole package. That is everything he has to have on to go into a house fire.
Wow.
And then obviously he also has a hose with some water in it. And he'd be dressed the same way also. Scott's a little less casual now that he's going to be an engineer, I guess. And to comply with federal law, obviously, we have to have this ensemble on. You can't not have part of this on. Like when I first came on the job 30 years ago, we didn't wear these pants during the day. We would just wear our regular pants during the day and throw our coat on. And a lot of the things we did back in the old days were dumb. And a lot of stuff's changed. Like I know a lot of you have been very upfront and helpful with the cancer issues involving firefighters. Obviously, everybody knows firefighters get cancer at a much higher rate. And it's starting to come to light a lot of the reasons that they get cancer, like prostate cancer. They get prostate cancer because this area is exposed and stuff comes up here. Get throat and thyroid cancer because this hood and this area up here. So a lot of those things are coming to light. That thing right there is his personal alerting device. If you hold still, if he gets knocked out or falls down, and he doesn't move for a minute, you'll hear that noise. And as he doesn't move, it gets louder and louder and louder, so that if he falls down in the fire, somebody will hear that noise and come over and grab him and drag him out, hopefully.
No, wait a minute.
That's you,
Let's,
Peter. You get to drag him out.
yeah.
So the only reason I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of show you guys. That's the boots, the pants, the coat, the hood, the helmet. He's got gloves on, SCBA, all the necessary items. And you guys know, because you guys write the checks for this stuff, that's all expensive stuff. He's wearing about $5,000 worth of gear, and he's got an $8,000 pack on his back there. So, you know, all told, that's about a $13,000 package right there. I don't even know if Leos has a car worth that much, do you? That's basically the soft goods that he's wearing. All the soft goods, the stuff that touches his skin, is his. He's the only one that wears that. SCBAs are everybody's. Next shift, when Piper switches seats with him, that breathing apparatus is his now. The only thing that's unique to them on the breathing apparatus is the mask. Obviously, we don't make people share masks, but we used to do that also. So now everybody has their own individual mask. All this equipment's designed to help prevent cancer, and like I said, I know you guys have been very, very helpful. This year, you guys funded a second set of turnouts. That was a big deal, because, you know, you go to a house fire, and it's not uncommon. You go to a house fire, and when you get back to the station, in the old days, we'd go back to the station, and it was cool to not clean your turnouts. You wanted to look all dirty and look like you'd been a firefighter for 20 years. Now, they are really very efficient, and they clean their turnouts out right away. As soon as they're done, they clean them. But it's not fun to go back to the station to put those in a washing machine, or our extractors that take all the bad stuff out, and now another fire comes in and doesn't have any turnouts. That's what the whole second set of turnouts thing were. And I know you guys all heard a lot about that, and you guys spoke very positively about that, and we did get that funded this year. Thank you. Our current SCBA's and some of our cylinders were purchased in 2007, and they were purchased on a firefighter's assistance grant that we got. We had some existing bottles at the time, but our entire SCBA inventory was replaced with these. They're 13, 14 years old now at this point. They're only good for 15
Look
years.
pretty beat up.
What's that?
They look pretty beat up.
They are, and well, they get beat up because they get used a lot. I mean, this goes in every fire that they go to. What I'm here to talk to you guys specifically about is the bottles. So that was a big ask this year for us to replace all of our SCBA's, and typically we reapplied for that same grant, but typically the feds won't give you another grant for something they already had funded previously. They kind of have a belief that once you get that item, a big ticket item like that, it's now the municipality's responsibility to fund that. So they did deny it, and we'll keep applying. But what we're doing tonight is we have about 116 bottles that are beyond service life. They're good for 15 years. We have some that are in the 13 to 15-year range that now can't be serviced anymore, they can't be repaired, and when we send them in for testing, they don't pass the test. So kind of as a stopgap measure, we're asking to purchase 70 of the 45-minute bottles. And that's gonna hold us over. We're kind of waiting to see what happened with the revenues because of the pandemic and stuff, and we'll be coming back to you, I'm sure, later this year to talk to you about the SCBA issue. But that's kind of where we're at. This is a sole source purchase. We have to use Scott air bottles because it's a Scott air pack. We can't mix and match. There's not mixing and matching. All the companies are pretty unique. You got to use their bottle. So that's why it's a sole source purchase from MSA. They're the supplier of Scott air packs here in Arizona. Lastly, I really wanted to say, this isn't a nice to have item. This is an absolutely necessary item. We cannot do our jobs without these. It's how we keep our firefighters safe. It's how we allow them to go in and save people and put out fires in houses. So that's basically it. Thank you for allowing us this time. That concludes my presentation, and I'm prepared to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Mr. Powell?
I just want to say that's probably the most impressive presentation I've seen since, I just hope you don't go for a fire truck, because I don't think it's gonna fit in here.
It's a good idea. We'll make sure these parking spots are available. We'll get one out there. I kind of felt it was important. I know we come in here and throw these terms at you, like, you guys voted on the life pack a few minutes ago. And
Yeah.
it was on the consent agenda, so we didn't bother with that. But I know most of you guys know what it is, but,
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally something the size of a suitcase that costs $40,000. But that one item we use on every single medical call, and then
Yeah.
it saves people's lives. It's what we use to monitor and do EKGs, and we shock them when their heart stops, and it restarts their heart, so. It's important stuff.
Chief, what was the total cost of the 70?
For this, $91,000 and $91,967.26.
Okay, thank you.
They're about $1,200. Each of these bottles is about $1,200.
Okay.
They're wrapped in carbon and carbon fiber, and they're very, very light because obviously it's hard to work in this ensemble.
Yeah, it would be hard to work in it without the tank on your back.
Yeah.
Those fit into the, actually fit into the seat of the
That's a
engine,
good question. For years, we did have them in seats, and we're now moving to a new thing with the new fire engines that you guys bought last year is called a clean cab concept. So we don't take anything into the cab
Okay.
where we ride that goes into fires. So they're now back out in a cabinet on the side of the rig. We
Okay.
do have apparatus that still have in the seat, but all of our future purchases will have the breathing apparatus and even the safety gear we used to carry. I mean, when I was young, you know, our safety gear, we sat on it. I mean, it was in the rig with us. They don't carry anything in the rig with them now. It's all in exterior compartments so that they're not breathing.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, when
what
I
I
came
do.
on, we'd go to bed, and we'd take our boots off and put them right next to the bed. Well, they figured out that's not good. You're breathing that in while you're sitting there sleeping. So they don't do any of the stuff. It makes me feel kind of old, but that's basically what it is.
Anybody have any questions?
No, I appreciate the
Donna, go ahead.
demonstration.
Just a quick one. On the cylinders, how do we dispose of the ones that are no longer good, or do you just give them back
I
to the
don't know.
company?
I'll let you know. I don't know. My guess is they cut, this valve comes off. And once this comes off, if there's no air in them, you can unscrew that. Once that comes off, they're not any good. But we don't donate them.
I'm guessing we don't get a trade-in, right?
No, we don't get a trade-in. We don't donate them to anybody. We don't, like, that was another thing in the old days. We used to give all of our stuff to Mexico to use, and we don't do any of that anymore just because of the liability for the city.
Bob, you had a question?
Yeah, is it cost prohibitive to go ahead with the 60-minute tanks instead of the 45s?
The only problem with the 60-minute ones is they are substantially heavier.
Okay,
And honestly, we don't want them to be in there working on a fire for 60 minutes straight, because they wouldn't last 60 minutes. When they
okay,
come outside at 30 minutes, they're spent and they're done for. They go to rehab for a few minutes and get back on their feet, and
okay,
we take when they go to rehab, we take vital signs, they get a little water. But
Okay.
yeah, 60-minute bottles are tough. When I used to be in USAR years ago, we would use those when we did like confined space stuff, and crawling around in a confined space for 60 minutes, when you came out, you were done.
yeah.
And we don't have that many firefighters here, so we don't have the ability to do sustained operations for that long.
And also, do we have the equipment to recharge those at every station?
No, we have an apparatus, or utility, which is due to be replaced, but we've put that off. That has the ability to charge the bottles. And we also have a portable unit that we keep out at 503s. It's a portable trailer that was purchased on a Prop 202 grant
Okay.
a long time ago. I don't know, how long ago was that bought?
Okay.
Yeah, so, but yeah, we do have the ability to fill those.
Okay.
And those units are able to be brought, if we had a fire scene where we were there for an extended period of time, the utility's always there, and we could bring that trailer out also.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Thank you,
very
guys.
much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the demonstration.
Yeah. I was
All right.
worried he was gonna run out.
Yeah, he almost used his 30 minutes.
I was watching.
Can I get an ordinance number, please, Gloria?
Ordinance number 3240, an ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting the sole source provider offer from Municipal Emergency Services, Inc., to provide 70 Scott self-contained breathing apparatus cylinders, authorizing expenditure of public funds, and authorizing the execution of a contract.
Mayor McFarland, I move for the passage of ordinance number 3240 as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes?
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Courtson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item is I-2, ordinance number 3241. Mr. Kevin.
Let's see him top that one.
And because this is a wastewater project, I did not bring any visual aids. You're welcome. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council authorize a contract with Alpha Laval Incorporated in an amount of $112,882 plus a $16,000 contingency for a total not to exceed $128,882. This contract is to basically provide some needed repair in our solids handling facility. This is programmed repairs. The equipment is over 10 years old, kind of like changing tires, changing oil. This is what we're doing in our solids handling facility. We're going to be doing 1 gravity belt thickener and 3 of the belt filter presses and all the components that help move those parts. A lot of moving parts, a lot of wearing parts, and we've started to see an increase in both breakdowns as well as our efficiency of our equipment. So this will be a new refresher for us. We did procure this as a sole source, as Alpha Laval is the manufacturer and the only ones allowed to work on this equipment and provide those parts. So this was done as a sole source and was budgeted for. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? All right, seeing none, then I'll entertain a ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 3241, an ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a sole source provider proposal from Alpha Laval, Inc. to provide solids handling, maintenance, and repairs for the city's water reclamation facility, authorizing expenditure of public funds, and authorizing the execution of a contract.
Mayor McFarland, I move for approval of ordinance number 3241 as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item is item J1. This is consider approving the reappointment of Stephen Hartwell to the Airport Advisory Board. I did have a chance to meet with Stephen. He is interested in being reappointed, so his name has been put forward to the council and awaits your approval.
Mayor McFarland, I move for the reappointment of Stephen Hartwell to the Airport Advisory Board.
Second.
All right, and I do want to just publicly thank Stephen Hartwell for his time and service with the city, so thank you, Stephen.
Absolutely.
It's been moved and seconded. Can I get actually, I don't need to. I can just get an approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Stephen has been reappointed. Next item on the agenda is our reports. So I'm going to start to the right here. Lisa, with you.
You know, I really don't have anything, but I just wanted to remind everyone tomorrow's election day, and hopefully we'll all be safe and just go cast our vote. And, you know, I mean, I'm proud of our community. I mean, I think we've done pretty well, even when there's been, you know, just conflicts and everything. So I'm really hoping the community stays, you know, calm and whatever the outcome is, but definitely get out and vote. But I just wanted to, and Larry, you know, I know the police department has a plan to make sure they're going out in the community, making sure that the polls are safe and the workers and everything, but I'm sure it's going to be okay. But just remind everyone to vote tomorrow.
Thank you, Lisa. Mr. Powell?
I had a call today from some constituents that are, it's referring to the I-11. And it goes through quite a bit of property there, and one of them would have their house torn down, part of another one torn down, and some others. And she's wondering who she talks to. And I said, I know our mayor has got some connections, and I know that it kind of discouraged any discussion about I-11 last time it was up, but they've been there a long time. They've got a beautiful place. Serranos are just down from them, and England's house, I think, would be torn down completely, the ones that are out there. So what they were hoping is that they would choose the alternative that goes up Montgomery Road, which seems to make sense, all the way from I-8 up instead of having to do the others. So hopefully that'll get done. But does she need to call anybody? Or is that-
ADOT. She can go online and actually look up I-11 under ADOT's website, and there's opportunities for her to give input on that website.
Okay.
And if she can't find it, give her my cell number.
Well, and she will give you a full load when she gets it.
I'll help her find it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Powell.
Oh, you bet.
Mary?
I don't have a whole lot, except that this morning we filmed a little video. Unfortunately, we can't have our Veterans Parade that we've been doing for many, many years, and that's really unfortunate because it was such a great day to celebrate. And it's the young and the old. I mean, we're celebrating 18-year-olds all the way up to 98, 100-year-old veterans, and that. So that was kind of a sad thing, but I appreciate the opportunity that we all had, and the mayor doing a good job to express to all our veterans that we are celebrating you. We may not be able to do it in a parade on the streets this year, but just take a look. The website's going to have where you can see the video and different presentations that different people are making on that. So hopefully next year we'll have a bigger and better parade.
Thank you, Mary. Matt?
I saw the new billboard for the rec center over by the rodeo grounds, in front of the rodeo grounds. It's nice, and I saw that it was produced by a local company too, so I was pretty excited about that. Nice looking, so thanks, Larry. That's all the great news I have today. Just, we're gonna be okay after tomorrow, no matter what.
Yeah.
Donna?
I don't know whether we mentioned it before or not at our meeting last time, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Joanne Kramer and Palo Verde Elementary School, who got the A+ rating. That is a big contribute to our community. Also, I had a downtown merchant that contacted me this week wanting to find out what she could do to help. She had a customer that had been homeless, living in his car for a year. And so I gave her the information for CG Helps, but before I could offer anything else, Wendy Lloyd and Thomas Anderson from the police department had already went down there. They got him help, they got him a room. Cara is working with him to get him a place to live. And I think that, you know, a lot of times people forget that the downtown merchants, they do more than we think. And I thought that was a really good gesture on Mary Ann's part from the cookie jar, that she took it upon herself to, you know. And then she followed up with me that afternoon and just said how proud she was of our city for being an active partner and helping, you know, find solutions. And she was really proud to be part of our community and be part of downtown. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then the other thing is that Chief Keene is here, and I will say that the Casa Grande Fire Department has an app. We've all heard about Pulse Point, and there is a challenge for as many people in Casa Grande to sign up for it, I think, and through next Friday, and I had said that, you know, as many people that signed up for it, that I would throw in a gift certificate, and he also did that. So we've got a couple gift certificates going out to, you know, our community, trying to get people to get signed up for that. And I think we've had some pretty good numbers coming in the last 24 hours. So what people won't do for food. So that's it.
Bob?
Just to echo what Lisa said about get out and vote. What a wonderful country we live in, that we get to elect all of our leaders, and just encourage everybody to get out and exercise that right tomorrow. Mayor, I also want to thank you for meeting with Councilmember McBride and I earlier about water issues. It's been a full day with the presentation from Arizona Water and then meeting with you earlier. I have even higher respect for you and Mr. Powell for digging in deep on that issue. I feel like I maybe got the tip of my toe wet today, but anxious to learn more. So it's a big issue. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bob. Just on my part, just want to make sure everybody knows we've got PPE equipment and the reimbursement that the city will do. Please go online. If you know any businesses, you know, even churches, some nonprofits, anybody who's spent money on personal protection equipment, including plexiglass, other things, you know, to keep people separated. Anything they had to do to protect their community from the COVID spread. So please make sure they go online. Also, the Mayor's Roundtable we just announced on Path to Trades, which is really a working program with the city and the high school district, as well as one of our plumbing academies here in town. So check it out. It's online. It's on November 18th from 1:20 to 2:55, and I'm not sure why he was being creative in the time that he set up, but it'll be a WebEx, so it's open to builders, developers, suppliers, anybody who works in the trades. If there's educators that are interested, we'll also entertain that. So I've got a bunch of other stuff, but I'm not going to do it because I said we'd get done at 7:30, and so we are done. Does anybody have anything else?
Oh, my gosh.
All right. Meeting adjourned.